Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz. This is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Tuesday, April 2nd, 2024. If you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my rundown best bet in the MLB, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Tuesday in Major League Baseball. First up, it's the Minnesota Twins taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Louis Varland and Jacob Junis, or as we like to call him, Jakob Junis, are on the mound in this one. Now, we saw these teams have the day off on Monday. They were the only matchup that didn't play on Monday. And, in this game, Louis Varland making his season debut. Both pitchers making their season debuts. And, Varland, somebody I expected to have a big season this year. I didn't love how he ended spring training. He did struggle quite a bit with the issue that he's had at the major league level so far. That's giving up the long ball. He gave up quite a few home runs in his rookie season. And, we've seen in spring training, the last two games, 4 innings against the Tigers, 9 base hits, 8 earned runs, and a homer with 3 walks to go with it. And then against the Braves, 5 innings, 6 earned runs, and 2 home runs in that game. He had 14 strikeouts and 18 innings of work in spring, and in March at least, not really what you want to see. And like I said, the sharp contact, the home run ball has hurt him. When you look at the barrel percentage and hard hit percentage for Varland last year, near the bottom of baseball in terms of the percentile. And even though this is a Brewers lineup that's not amazing on paper, I still think they had a really impressive series against the Mets at Citi Field. And, Jacob Junis, not one of my favorite starting pitchers to back, and he didn't have an amazing spring either. But, with no Royce Lewis in the lineup right now for the Twins, and, the lineup is not looking great so far. We saw him get shut out on Sunday against the Royals. I just think the Brewers are the slightly better option in this game. This is a pretty tough Tuesday card. I got to say, not my favorite card in general in Major League Baseball, but in this spot, I'm going to go with the Brewers on the money line. Next up, we see the Kansas City Royals taking on the Baltimore Orioles. Alec Marsh and Cole Irvin making their season debuts in this one. Alec Marsh last year struggled quite a bit, 3-9 record and a 5.69 ERA. Now, he did win the job in the rotation in spring training because he pitched pretty well in about 14 innings of work, 13 and 2/3 innings. He had 14 strikeouts and a 3.95 ERA. His final 2 outings in spring weren't his best. He gave up in combined 7 and 2/3 innings, 6 earned runs, and 2 home runs. So not what you want to see going up against this really good Orioles lineup. And I think the Orioles will be able to get to him, but I also think the Royals will be able to get to Cole Irvin, who struggled mightily in spring himself, where his control was way off. He wasn't missing a lot of bats. He's not really a strikeout guy to begin with, more pitch to contact. But, the Royals have been lefties pretty well so far to start the season, and I think they'll be able to get to him early and often. I mentioned, we know the Royals bullpen struggles, but the Orioles bullpen as well, to start the season near the bottom of the league in projected WAR. I don't think it's as strong on paper as it was the last couple of years. I think we could see them have some issues in that bullpen, at least at the beginning of the season. So I think we're going to see a high-scoring game here. I'm going to go with the over in Royals-Orioles. Next up, it's the Los Angeles Angels taking on the Miami Marlins. We're going to see Tyler Anderson and Jesus Luzardo as the projected starters. Tyler Anderson had a disappointing season last year, had a 5.63 ERA, 5.43 ERA, in about 140 innings of work. But spring training, he was pretty solid for the Angels. He was missing some bats. He finished with, in the month of March, 14 and 2/3 innings, a 3.07 ERA, 19 strikeouts, only 1 home run. The control was there. So promising sign for the Angels. They really could use him at the end of that rotation. But I think it's a tough matchup for the Halos going up against Jesus Luzardo on the other side, who pitched on opening day, and he pitched well, 5 innings of work, 2 earned runs. It was really 1 mistake pitch to Brian Reynolds, who had a 2-run bomb. But other than that, 8 strikeouts in those 5 innings. He did enough for the Marlins to potentially win that game. Obviously, they lost that one in extra innings, but it wasn't his fault. He pitched well, and I think he pitches well in this game. He's pitched well at Lone Depot Park in his time with the Marlins, and I think he's a better option here. So, it's not. I don't love backing the Marlins right now with the way they're playing, but I'm going to go with them in this spot on the money line. Next up, we see the Cincinnati Reds taking on the Philadelphia Phillies. Graham Ashcraft and Spencer Turnbull are your projected starters. I really like Graham Ashcraft. I think he has a bounce-back season this year, but I do think it's going to take him a little while to get going and to get back to what we saw from the beginning of the season last year. At the start of 2023, he was excellent. He struggled. He had some injury problems, so it wasn't a great season overall for him with that 4.76 ERA, but also in spring training in 12 and 2/3 innings, he struggled with that control, 7 walks given up. He had 10 strikeouts only as well, a 6.39 ERA. Like I said, I think he's going to have a good season. I think it's going to take him a while to get to that point. Turnbull was solid in spring training, kind of won the job in the rotation in the spring. I think he's the better option here, but I also think the Phillies have the better lineup and bullpen to go with it. So I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Phillies in this spot on the money line. Next up, we see the Texas Rangers taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Andrew Heaney makes his season debut, and Zach Eflin pitching for the second time this year for Tampa Bay. Andrew Heaney, he's somebody that when he's on, he can be really dominant. He has great strikeout stuff. When he's on, like I said, he can be, 3-4 innings, shutout baseball, 7 strikeout kind of guy. However, when he's off, usually the control is off. He'll walk a lot of batters. He'll also give some sharp contact, some home runs. And in spring training, he was pretty solid. In the month of March, 8 innings of work, 4 walks, not what you want to see in terms of the control. 4.5 ERA, and it's so for Andrew Heaney. He also just didn't have a lot of work in spring to begin with, so it's kind of tough to tell where he's going to be at in February. He had 1 outing, he hit a batter, he had 1 walk as well in 2 innings, but he had 5 strikeouts. So like I said, the strikeout stuff's going to be there. The control may not be, and I worry about it in his first start of the season. I don't know if the control is going to be where it needs to be. And, Zach Eflin, he struggled mightily against the Blue Jays. We know that. He gave up 3 home runs in that game. But he's somebody that pitched really well at Tropicana Field last year. He was a really profitable pitcher in terms of, betting-wise last year for the Rays. And I think he'll bounce back. I think he's going to be a solid option in this rotation this year. So I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Rays in this one on the money line. I just think Eflin has a better chance of bouncing back than Andrew Heaney does of having a clean start here. I think the Rays have the better bullpen, so I'm going to go with the Rays in this one. Next up, we see the Detroit Tigers taking on the New York Mets. Casey Mize and Adrian Hauser are your projected starters, both making their season debuts, and Adrian Hauser, of course, making his Mets debut. I watched a good amount of Adrian Hauser in spring training, and it was so numbers from the thing that concerns me is he was struggling to find that put-away pitch. He would get 2 strikes on a hitter and then just couldn't find the out, and we saw the final game of spring for him, 5 innings, 4 runs, 2 home runs. He had 6 strikeouts, but I just don't know if I think Casey Mize is the better option here. He's been dealing with injuries the last couple of seasons. He only pitched, he didn't pitch at all in 2023, and he only pitched 10 innings in 2022. But he's still, he was one of the big prospects, pitching prospects in all of baseball, not just for the Detroit Tigers. And in spring training, exactly what you want to see if you're a Tigers fan. 18 2/3 innings of 19 strikeout baseball, a 1.45 ERA. The walks were a little steep at 7, but it's like 3.4-ish walks per 9, so not too bad. I think Mize is going to be sharp this season. The Tigers could really use him to be, and I think he's a better option in this one. And I just think the Tigers are the better team right now, so I'm going to go with the Detroit Tigers on the money line. Next up, we see the Atlanta Braves taking on the Chicago White Sox. We're going to see Reynaldo Lopez and Garrett Crochet as the starters. Garrett Crochet, one of the more impressive starts of the season so far, at least in the first week of Major League Baseball, as he went 6 innings of 8 strikeout ball with only 1 run given up, no walks as well. The control was there. Now, that was the Detroit Tigers. You're facing the Atlanta Braves. It's a much tougher lineup, but I still think Crochet is solid. He's not usually a guy that's going to go too deep into ball games, but he went 6 innings on opening day, so he's going to be a reliable starter for the White Sox. They really need him in a pretty weak pitching staff. But Reynaldo Lopez, this is a very competitive Braves team. It's not going to give out starting pitching jobs to anybody. Lopez really earned that 5th spot in the rotation. He went 14 2/3 in spring, 13 Ks and a 1.84 ERA. He gave up 3 home runs the final 2 games, but I still think he's a solid option against a White Sox lineup that's one of the worst in baseball on paper, and one that's struggling to start the season. So I'm going to go with the under in the first 5 innings. I don't love this White Sox bullpen, so I worry that in the late innings the Braves may be able to run up the score, but I'm going to go with the under in the first 5. Next up, we see the Colorado Rockies taking on the Chicago Cubs. Kyle Freeland and Javier Assad are the projected starters. This is a tough one for me. It's not a fun play, but I got to go with the Rockies plus 1.5 runs by default, because while Freeland struggled mightily against the Arizona Diamondbacks, he is somebody that pitching for the Rockies is used to having certain starts just don't go your way. It's not like Kyle Freeland. This is the first time he's gotten crushed. When you're pitching at Coors Field, there's just going to be games where you struggle. Now this game was on the road, but I still think that mentally Freeland will be able to bounce back from a start like that. We saw it last year. I mean, you just go through the game logs, you see a horrible start when he gave up 7 earned against the Pirates back on April 17th. The next game he went 6 innings against the Phillies and gave his team a chance. He gave up 5 earned against the Diamondbacks on May 30th. The next start against the Royals, 7 innings of 2-run baseball. So, he's had outings where he's been able to bounce back from tough ones. And I think against a Cubs team, it's not hitting lefties too well to start the year. Freeland can give the Rockies 4 or 5 decent innings. And on the other side, Javier Assad did not pitch well in spring training. His control was off. And I can't lay a kind of price like this with the Cubs when I just don't trust the starting pitching options, really the bullpen either. So I'm going to go with the Rockies plus the 1.5 runs. Like I said, not a very fun play, but it's the only one for me. Next up, we see the Toronto Blue Jays taking on the Houston Astros. Jose Barrios and Framber Valdez are your starters. I didn't like what I saw from Fromber in that first start against the Yankees, and I do worry about him this season. The control is always a concern with him, and he had 6 walks in that first game. That's too many in 4 2/3 innings. And this is a pretty solid Blue Jays lineup against lefties. I mentioned that last year, they, at the beginning of the season, they were not hitting lefties very well at all. They improved as the season went on. They were a lot more patient. They lowered their strikeout rate. Their power numbers starting to get there. And the Blue Jays so far this season, decent numbers against lefties. I think they get to Fromber. Barrios pitched well in a tough spot at Tropicana Field on opening day. He went 6 innings, a 2-run ball with 6 strikeouts, so quality start. Good enough for the win in the end. I think he's good enough here for the win. I don't like the way the Astros are looking. Their bullpen has really struggled. Notably, one of the worst bullpens so far in baseball in terms of the leads that they blew against the Yankees in that first series. So give me the Blue Jays on the money line. Next up is the New York Yankees taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. We're going to see Nestor Cortez and Zach Gallen as the starters. Nestor Cortez struggled in spring. He was not great in that first start against the Astros. I do worry about him in a spot like this against the Diamondbacks team. We just mentioned scored 10 runs against Kyle Freeland and 14 runs in that inning. It was just unbelievable. They're crushing lefties to start the year, and I think Cortez could be in trouble. But Zach Gallen also wasn't the most impressive in my opinion. Even the numbers look solid on paper. Only 3 strikeouts in 5 innings for a starter. I would consider a strikeout-dependent starter. Not what I'd like to see. This Yankees lineup is red hot, and this is we saw Gallen. I mentioned going into that game for Gallen that he's been a slow starter at times in his career. Last year, we saw him pitch the first game against the Dodgers, 4 2/3 innings, 5 earned runs, and that was against LA. But he followed it up against the Padres, 6 innings of 7-hit, 5-run baseball. So even though he went on to have an amazing season, he is known to have a slow start here and there. And I think against the Yankees, I think the Yankees will be able to get to him for a few runs. So I'm going to go with the over here and Yankees Diamondbacks. Next up, we see the Boston Red Sox taking on the Oakland Athletics. Brian Bayo and Alex Wood are your starters. Alex Wood was really struggling to find his command on the mound. It wasn't necessarily missing pitches outside the zone. He only had 1 walk in 3 1/3. He was missing inside the zone. That's concerning. This is a Red Sox team that offensively, not a lot of people had big expectations for this year, but they were pretty solid in that Mariners series, and I think they'll be able to get to Wood early in this game. We know the A's bullpen's not much better, and Brian Bayo, solid starting pitcher, keeps the ball on the ground. He went 5 innings, a 2-run ball against the Mariners on the road in that first start. The Red Sox wanted to win that game 6-4. I think he's a better option here, so I'm going to go with the Red Sox on the money line. Next up, we see the Cleveland Guardians taking on the Seattle Mariners. Shane Bieber and Luis Castillo are your starters. Now, I mentioned that I faded Shane Bieber quite a bit last year because his strikeout stuff was starting to drift. His velocity was going down. This season, I mentioned in spring training he was there, but I still didn't trust him all the way. I wanted to see it to believe it, and you know what? He pitched really well. Now, we can't overreact to an Oakland A's start, but still, Shane Bieber was excellent in that game. One of the best starts of the season so far. 6 innings of shutout ball with 11 strikeouts in that ball game. The strikeout stuff is there for Shane Bieber, so I can confidently back him in this spot against Luis Castillo, who struggled quite a bit on opening day. And this is a Guardians team. Like I said, they play small ball so well. If they're trailing in a game late or if they're tied in a game, this is a team you can usually have some confidence in because they just find a way to win. Even in that game against the A's where they lost the final game of the series, they were down 3-0 the entire way. Carlos Carrasco did not pitch well. Paul Blackburn was excellent. And still, we saw the Guardians tie the game up in the 8th inning. They had a chance to take the lead in the 9th. They had 1st and 3rd, nobody out. So the Guardians, you can just never count this team out. Even if this is a close game late, even though the Mariners have a great bullpen, I still think Cleveland's got a good shot at this one. So I'm going to go with the Guardians here on the money line. I just think a series like this is built a lot better for them. When they play teams like the Yankees or the Dodgers that can just outmuscle them, then I think the Guardians will start to struggle. But I think this is a good spot for Cleveland. Next up, we see the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the San Diego Padres. Miles Mikolas and Yu Darvish are your starters. Mikolas struggled against the Dodgers in that first start. He's not going to be the last starting pitcher that doesn't do well against LA. He went 4 1/3 innings of 7-hit baseball, 5 earned runs, 2 home runs, and 2 walks. He did have 5 strikeouts, so he was missing some bats here and there. But Yu Darvish, is tough to go against him in this game because I've mentioned that he's somebody that's a little bit of a slow starter, 2 seasons at times, but he went 5 innings of 1-run ball against the Giants in that last game, 7 strikeouts, no home runs. He's keeping the ball on the ground, and in that 1 run that he gave up was kind of an unfortunate one. I think he pitches well in this game. I don't trust his Padres bullpen right now, so I'm just going to go with the Padres in the first 5 innings in this matchup. Next up, we see the final game for Tuesday's card in Major League Baseball. It's going to be the San Francisco Giants taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. No official lineup for this game, so we could see a pitching change. But right now, I'm seeing Logan Webb and Tyler Glasnow, which would be a nice pitching matchup to see. Glasnow's looked strong so far with his new team. He is 1-0 with a 2.45 ERA. Last game is really solid start against the Cardinals. 6 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts. Exactly what you want to see from Glasnow. He was able to pitch deeper into the game sometimes. His control can be off, so his pitch count goes up early. He's only able to go 4 or 5 innings, but seeing him have a quality start and a win for the Dodgers is exactly what you want to see. Logan Webb, he was actually one of the few starting pitchers last year that pitched pretty well against LA, but I do have my concerns with his game. He pitched well against the Padres, no doubt about it, in that first start. 6 innings, 2 runs, a quality start, but he's somebody that's a really, a ground ball specialist. Doesn't really miss a lot of bats, doesn't earn a ton of strikeouts, but he keeps the ball on the ground. So to see a 9-to-8 ground ball to fly ball ratio in that first game, about 50-50, it's not really where you want to be if you're Logan Webb. Last year when he had his success, it was 19-7 ground ball, 16-5, all those ratios where it was heavy ground ball, stuff. That's where he had his most success. So I worry about that here against a really good Dodgers lineup that can put the ball in the air, that's for sure. And like I said, spring training, he wasn't the sharpest. I think the Dodgers can get to him for a few runs early. I'm going to go with the Dodgers in this one, lay the 1.5 runs. And that's it. Those are the games in baseball for Tuesday. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe and put your baseball picks in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.